Hamilton just said something that could change the history of Formula One. Leclerc and I are probably the strongest pairing F1 has ever had. But is this true or just an exaggeration? Before I tell you the details, tell me in the comments. Do you think this duo will beat Senna and Prost or Schumacher and Barrichello? Let's analyze it. Lewis Hamilton has made one of the boldest decisions of his career by leaving Mercedes after more than a decade and a cycle full of success. His arrival at Ferrari is not just a media move, but a meticulously planned strategy with a clear objective: to fight for the championship again. Since 2021, Mercedes has shown signs of weakening in the face of Red Bull's absolute dominance. Despite being a team with a solid structure, the regulations introduced in 2022 complicated the development of the car, leaving Hamilton without a machine capable of consistently competing for victories. In 2023, the team only managed a second place in the Constructors' Championship, but without any individual victories for Hamilton. Against this backdrop, Ferrari represented the best opportunity to reinvent itself and seek its 8th world title. The Briton knows that in Formula One, a change of team at the right time can make the difference between being remembered as an eternal champion or falling behind in the fight for glory. In this case, Ferrari has worked on a project that could return them to the top, and Hamilton not only joins as a driver, but as a leader within the team. One of the keys to his arrival is the rapid adaptation to the SF25. Although the car was developed with Charles Leclerc's preferences in mind, Ferrari has already begun to make specific changes to adjust it to Hamilton's driving style. One of the first adjustments has been the modification of the steering wheel, specifically the relocation of the electrical system management function. This function, crucial to the energy management strategy during the race, has been moved to the underside of the steering wheel, something Ferrari has not done since the days of Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Räikkönen in 2015. For a driver like Hamilton, accustomed to a control layout optimized for his driving style at Mercedes, such changes can make a key difference to his performance. As well as changes to the steering wheel, Ferrari is exploring modifications to the aerodynamics of the SF25. The team has paid particular attention to the design of the front wing and nose, two areas where the teams have not yet reached a consensus in terms of efficiency within the ground effect regulations. Hamilton's experience in developing winning cars will be essential in guiding the evolution of the car throughout the season. However, the key to success at Ferrari will not only depend on technical modifications, but also on the internal structure of the team. At Mercedes, Hamilton has managed to win the support of engineers, mechanics, and strategists, establishing himself as the central figure of the team. At Ferrari, the situation is different. Charles Leclerc has been the Scuderia's bet since 2019 and has a deep integration with the Maranello structure. His relationship with the engineers is solid. He masters the language and has built an affinity with the team's culture. The challenge for Hamilton will be to quickly establish himself as an influential figure within the team and make Ferrari work in line with his vision. The history of Formula One has shown that teams tend to lean towards the driver who gets the best results in the first races of the season. If Hamilton manages to impose himself from the start and achieve early victories, the balance of power within the team could change drastically in his favor. Ferrari has opted for the combination of youth and experience to become a dominant team again. Hamilton, with his track record and competitive mentality, has the opportunity to leave an indelible mark on the team's history. But for this gamble to work, he needs more than just speed and talent. He must prove he still has the hunger to win and the ability to lead a team in a new era of Formula One. Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc form a combination that could mark a turning point in Formula One history. Hamilton's claim to be the strongest pairing the sport has seen in 75 years is not just a statement to generate media impact. There are concrete reasons to support the possibility of this duo becoming one of the most dominant in the sport. Hamilton comes with the experience of 7 world titles, more than 100 victories, and a deep knowledge of car development. His success has not been based solely on his talent behind the wheel, but on his ability to work alongside engineers and mold cars to their needs. Throughout his career, he has witnessed different eras within Formula One, from cars with naturally aspirated V8 engines to the current hybrid era with ground effect. His understanding of how regulations evolve and how to adapt to each change gives him a strategic advantage over most drivers on the grid. On the other hand, Leclerc represents the new generation of Formula One. At 27 years old, he has proven to be one of the fastest drivers on a single lap, achieving pole positions in situations where the car's performance did not seem sufficient to compete with the leaders. His aggressiveness and determination have made him one of the most outstanding figures in recent years, and Ferrari has built its team around him since his arrival in 2019. Unlike other young talents, Leclerc has not only demonstrated speed, but also an evolution in his race management skills, something that was evident in recent seasons with his improvement in tire management and strategic decision-making. What makes this duo especially interesting is that they both share similarities in their driving style. Throughout history, many driver pairs have had difficulties due to their preferences in the development of the car being opposite. However, Leclerc has recently recognized that his way of driving is surprisingly similar to Hamilton's. Both drivers prefer a car with a tendency to oversteer, meaning they can make the most of the front end of the car when entering corners. This characteristic is key because it will allow Ferrari to optimize the SF25 more efficiently without compromising the performance of either of them. In addition to the technical part, the combination of youth and experience can generate a synergy that benefits the entire team. Hamilton has the knowledge to understand what a car needs to be a champion, while Leclerc brings renewed energy and a quick adaptability. In the past, Ferrari has opted for lineups in which there was a clear number one and a squire, as was the case with Schumacher and Barrichello or Alonso and Massa. However, on this occasion, the team seems to be betting on two figures of equal weight, which could lead to one of the most intense internal rivalries in the recent history of the category. The challenge will be to find the balance between competition and collaboration. In theory, having two drivers capable of fighting for the championship within a single team is an advantage, as it prevents a direct rival from benefiting. However, if the relationship between the two becomes contentious, history has shown that the team can end up losing more than it gains. Teams such as McLaren in 2007 with Alonso and Hamilton, or Mercedes in the Rosberg era, witnessed how a poorly managed rivalry can weaken the team rather than strengthen it. Should Ferrari manage to maintain a stable working environment, the combination of talent, speed, and experience of this duo could make them one of the most formidable partnerships in modern Formula One. Hamilton knows what it takes to win a title, and Leclerc is at the point in his career where he needs to make the definitive leap to become a champion. The key will be to see who manages to impose himself within the team and whether Ferrari can manage the ambition of both without affecting the performance of the car. Lewis Hamilton's arrival at Ferrari not only marks a strategic shift for the Scuderia, but also raises one of the most intriguing questions of the season. Can Hamilton and Leclerc coexist as allies in the fight for the championship, or will their relationship evolve into an inevitable rivalry? Throughout the history of Formula One, the combination of two top drivers within the same team has generated some of the most intense and controversial seasons in the sport. In the case of Ferrari, the team structure in recent years has revolved around Charles Leclerc, who has been the team's long-term bet since 2019. With the backing of the team and continuity at Maranello, Leclerc has developed a strong relationship with the engineers and technicians, as well as having the support of Ferrari fans, who see him as the driver who could return them to glory after more than a decade without titles. However, Hamilton's arrival completely changes the landscape. He is not just another driver on the grid, but the most successful of the modern era with 7 world titles and more than 100 wins. His experience and ability to impose himself within a team can alter the balance of power at Ferrari. Throughout his career, Hamilton has shown an exceptional ability to generate support within the technical and sporting structures of the teams where he has competed. He did so at McLaren, where he was treated as the future of the team from his debut, and at Mercedes, where he became the central figure of the team after the departure of Nico Rosberg in 2016. The challenge for Leclerc will be to prove from the start that he is still Ferrari's #1 driver. Formula One has shown on numerous occasions that the dynamics within a team are defined by results. If Hamilton manages to impose himself in the first races, it is likely that the team will begin to turn in his favor, even if the initial intention was to treat both as equals. Ferrari's recent history shows that when a driver takes advantage in the season, the team usually prioritizes him strategically. This was seen in 2010 with Fernando Alonso, when the team made it clear that the Spaniard was their best option to fight for the title, or in 2018 with Sebastian Vettel, who received Ferrari's full support against Kimi Räikkönen in the fight for the championship. One of the key factors that will determine the relationship between Hamilton and Leclerc will be the competitiveness of the car. If Ferrari manages to develop a dominant car capable of fighting for the championship without the need to face its direct rivals, the internal pressure between the drivers could be manageable. However, if the season develops in a close manner with Red Bull and Mercedes in the fight for the title, the Scuderia could be forced to make difficult strategic decisions, prioritizing one driver over another depending on the circumstances of the championship. Another fundamental aspect is the role of Fred Vasseur, Ferrari team principal. Vasseur knows both drivers well. He worked with Leclerc at Sauber when the Monegasque made his debut in Formula One, while he has a relationship of mutual respect with Hamilton since their time in the lower categories, his task will not be easy, as he will have to balance supporting two drivers with very different mentalities and objectives. Leclerc seeks to establish himself as Ferrari's future champion, while Hamilton arrives with the intention of proving that he can still win titles and leave his mark on the team's history. The relationship between two high-level teammates can quickly transform depending on the circumstances. If Ferrari allows both to compete freely and the fight on the track is tight, the risk of internal tension will increase with each race. Historical references in Formula One make it clear that competition between two drivers within the same team rarely remains peaceful when both have real chances of fighting for the title. The most emblematic case is that of Ayrton Senna and Alain Prost at McLaren between 1988 and 1989, a rivalry that began with mutual respect but ended with controversy, on-track clashes, and a complete breakup within the team. More recently, Mercedes experienced a similar situation with Hamilton and Rosberg between 2013 and 2016, with an internal struggle that reached its peak in the season in which Rosberg managed to snatch the title from Hamilton before retiring from Formula One. The first big clue about the dynamic between Hamilton and Leclerc will come in the first few races of the season. If the two are on equal terms and competing for wins, tensions could quickly escalate, especially if Ferrari doesn't define a clear strategy on how to handle the relationship between its drivers. On the other hand, if one of the two takes the lead in the championship, the other will have to decide between accepting a secondary role within the team or intensifying the internal fight, which could complicate Ferrari's stability in its bid to win the title. Formula One history has shown that when two champions share a team, the outcome is often unpredictable. Hamilton and Leclerc have the chance to become a legendary duo, but they also face the risk of their relationship becoming one of the most explosive in the modern era. Lewis Hamilton's claim that he and Charles Leclerc will form probably the strongest partnership in Formula One history is not just an ambitious statement. It is a declaration of intent. Ferrari has opted for a combination of experience and youth in the hope of building a lineup that will allow it to truly compete for the championship, something it has not managed since the Michael Schumacher era. History has shown that bringing two top-level drivers together in one team can be a formula for success, but also a risk. McLaren enjoyed one of its most dominant periods with Senna and Prost, but their internal rivalry led to the team losing the Drivers' Championship in 1989. Mercedes enjoyed its best period with Hamilton and Rosberg, but the tension between the two ended up dividing the team to the point that Rosberg decided to retire after his title in 2016. For Ferrari, the key will be in the management of the team and the dynamic established between its drivers from the first race. If Hamilton and Leclerc manage to work together, develop the SF25 and avoid an internal conflict, they could become one of the most successful duos of the modern era. However, if the ego struggle and competition for leadership within the team intensify, Ferrari could find itself in a similar situation to that of 2019 with Vettel and Leclerc, when the lack of a clear hierarchy affected the team's performance. The start of the season will be decisive. The first races will define who of the two takes advantage within the team and whether Ferrari opts for a strategy of equality or decides to lean towards one of its drivers. If Hamilton manages to adapt quickly and achieve victories in the first rounds of the championship, he could consolidate himself as the reference within the Scuderia. But if Leclerc proves that he is still the best bet for Ferrari and imposes himself from the start, Hamilton will have to decide whether to accept a secondary role or intensify the internal fight. The 2025 season will be a turning point not just for Ferrari, but for the history of Formula One. The combination of a seven-time world champion with an emerging talent like Leclerc could mark an era, but it could also become one of the most intense and controversial chapters in the sport. Now the question is, will Hamilton-Leclerc be the best duo in Formula One history, or will they end up as one of the greatest rivalries the sport has ever seen? Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe to not miss the analysis of what will be one of the most exciting seasons in recent years.